Oh, headshot. And another one. And another one. Dang, 4. .9mm carbine velocity, specifically out of a 16-inch barrel, something very much like this Ruger M-Lock PC carbine. How much more of an increase are you going to get out of your 115 grain full metal jacket target ammo, or maybe 124 grain if you're running NATO or something very similar, or your jacketed hollow point loads if you're using something like this for home defense or maybe for hunting small game? Well, there's obviously hundreds and hundreds of options out there. I've chronographed several dozen. This is a pretty good representation of what you can find at your online distributor big box stores and your brick and mortar full metal jacket 115, which is going to be the most common, 124, even some 147s, and then you get into the jacketed hollow points. There's also one solid copper that I've got out there and a 147 hard cast. So it's a pretty good mix. So what I'm going to do is break this down for you by ammo type, by bullet weight. Then we'll get into the hollow points and kind of the specialty loads, give you a pretty good summary that will help you make some decisions on what's going to be best for you based on your criteria for 9mm carbine ammo. The concept for this came out of a review of the M-Lock that I posted in October 2023. In that video, there's a segment discussing carbine velocities, but this video is much more comprehensive. I'm running with a heavy free-floating barrel that's just over 16 inches and a 1 to 10 twist rate. Chronograph shots were from 10 feet and I collected 5 shot groups. My original plan was to send everyone a copy of the file, but 80% of you were concerned about me spamming your inbox, so this is what you get. We will start out with the smallest group, which is a couple of 147 FMJ and one hardcast. Both of the FMJs are actually truncated cone. The Winchester isn't that easy to find. This just happened to be a batch that I've had on hand for quite some time. I'm going to skip over to the Spear Lawman. This is a really healthy increase, and check out those foot-pounds of muzzle energy. This could be a good option for controlling varmints such as coyotes, or if you just want some heavy for caliber target practice. As for the Underwood hardcast, it starts out at a high velocity for the bullet weight. Nice increase out of the carbine, and this is one that some people might want to consider for hog hunting at a reasonable distance. I would expect this to be an excellent penetrator. I would not overlook heavy for caliber in a 9mm carbine. Compared to 115 FMJ, the slightly higher sectional density of 124 grain probably gives you better long-range accuracy potential out of the carbine. I like to use the European-produced S&B as an alternative to NATO in my handguns, but as you can see here, there's an extremely minimal increase in velocity. The Federal AE is also getting a minimal increase, and if I recall, it was 35 feet per second from low to high on that shot string. I have a 50-yard sight-in pattern for NATO because it's readily available and affordable in bulk. However, it's somewhat middle of the road with the velocity increase compared to all the 124 FMJs that I chronographed. My 5-shot group had a 40 feet per second differential from low to high. Browning is, of course, an established brand in the industry, but relatively new, it seems, with regard to producing target ammo. 5-shot string ran a differential of 40 feet per second. CCI has a weak advertised velocity for its weight class, but does make some amends out of the carbine. Shot string was all over the map with 70 feet per second differential. Winchester USA, this is not the NATO. It starts out with a lower velocity, but a really nice increase in differential of 43 feet per second on low to high. I clocked the Ammo Inc. Streak Tracer because it's really fun to shoot from the carbine at a reasonable and safe distance. I admittedly have minimal experience with Wolf other than 7.62 by 39. This is some of the least expensive FMJ you'll find in the industry. It is also very, very consistent with only 20 feet per second differential from low to high. Here are 3 others that caught my attention. The Privy Partisan, or PPU, is in the middle of the group with regard to velocity increase, but the consistency is amazing. The 5-shot group ranged from 1,238 to 1,249 feet per second. MagTech is another brand where I have limited 9mm experience. Modest velocity increase. As for the shot string, 1,253 up to 1,265 feet per second. Very tight. Oh, headshot. And another one. And another one. Dang, 4. I've had this Fiocchi stored in ammo cans for several years. This came out on top of the 124 grain group with the highest increase in velocity, highest muzzle energy, and the highest momentum. The 5-shot string ran from 1,373 to 1,402 feet per second. To a higher degree than even the 124 FMJ, starting velocities here are all over the chart. The Ammo Inc. product starts out at a nice level, but it pretty much stays there. I wanted to give it a shot, no pun intended, but I'll take a pass on buying future quantities. This S&B has a very high starting point, and that's going to help make it one of the fastest 115s that I chronographed, even with this low percentage velocity increase. PMC didn't really move the needle for me. It's on the lower end of starting velocity, and our average is going to come in among the lowest in this group. Fiocchi is going to come in overall the middle of the pack with regard to increase. It also had a differential low to high of approximately 50 feet per second. Of course, everyone is familiar with Winchester USA, or often called White Box. Because of availability, price, and a decent velocity increase, this is a product that I'll keep around the house for carbine purposes. I was really curious about the Aguila, and it has a decent increase in velocity. Consistency was okay with the differential low to high of 45 feet per second. Federal American Eagle is probably one of the pricier options in this weight class. However, it is very tight in consistency, running from 1,314 up to 1,334 feet per second in my 5-shot group. 115 Browning is a product I've been able to find online for a pretty decent price per round. It is clean and also very consistent with my 5-shot group, running from 1,328 to 1,348 feet per second. MagTech is coming in above the average in this group for increased velocities. It was also highly consistent, running from 1,290 to 1,305 feet per second. Remington surprised me a bit with this increase, as I was expecting it to be lower. Don't ask me why. The group ranged from 1,280 up to 1,328 feet per second. CCI Blazer is coming in on the higher end of my test group. Velocities range from 1,308 to 1,326 feet per second, therefore it is very consistent. Here are 4 others that were not on either of these slides. I'm featuring these for one reason or another. Herder's is a stock-up ammo that I was into several years ago. It starts out with a healthy number and lands on the higher end of velocity increases from this test group. But can you believe that consistency? Those are not typos. Wolf is continuing to impress with a higher than average level of velocity increase. But again, check out this consistency from shot to shot. I locked into the Winchester mil-spec truncated cone M1152 not long after it hit the market. I have not been disappointed with any aspect of it. Granted, this starts out and finishes with the highest advertised velocity in the test group. How can you ignore something coming in just under 1,500 feet per second from a 16-inch barrel? Wrapping up this segment, another winner in my book is the Speer Lawman. Cranking out some serious smoke, and it is remarkably consistent. If I can confirm that it's accurate, this could easily be my number one choice for 115 grain FMJ in the carbine. This group is 108 to 115 grains and includes some copper bullets. The S&B is not that common, but I used it just to show velocity for a non-premium brand. The Norma Monolithic is running hot, but in a recent handgun test it doesn't have good penetration. I would expect similar or worse out of the carbine. Critical defense could be a decent option for home defense, but I would not be on board with it for small game hunting. Here is the Lehigh Extreme Penetrator, which is a non-expanding copper bullet, 115 grains. This would be a good option for woods protection if you did not want to run with full metal jacket. This is the Plus P version of the Underwood Defender. Nice pickup on the carbine barrel, and I'd be really curious how this extra velocity would affect penetration. Excellent velocity increase on the Winchester Silvertip, but I would have concerns about fragmentation at this velocity. Handful of 124 grain options, and most of these should be familiar to everyone. The critical duty is Plus P and a pretty decent pickup. I like this one in the carbine because of the mechanical bonding, but of course there are no guarantees. The V-crown has a nice increase, and you're getting into the velocity range of 125 grain 357 SIG, but out of a 4-inch barrel. The Sierra is something I picked up at a big box sporting goods store, but I'd have concerns about fragmentation. The XTP at this velocity is well within its expansion envelope and would be a good option for home protection or small game. I could definitely run with the Gold Dot in the carbine. This velocity is most likely beyond the performance envelope, but it should not fragment. The Federal Punch is a lower cost option compared to the HST, and I was really surprised with this velocity. The Winchester PDX-1 Plus P won the battle of highest velocity increase in this weight class. It's also very consistent shot to shot. It is bonded, so an option I would consider in the carbine next to the Gold Dot. Just a handful of 135 and 138 grain options. The Speer carbine is designed for this barrel length, but I feel there are better choices among standard ammo offerings. This is also pretty expensive per round. The Legacy Hydra Shot gives us a nice increase, but availability might be an issue. The Federal Syntec wins the velocity battle in this small sampling of the weight class. This is a fragmenting bullet, and I would anticipate it expanding a little bit earlier because of this additional velocity. Couple of slides on the 147. The first two are coming in flat, the G2 Gold Dot and the Ranger Service Bonded. These are clearly engineered to maximize their velocity out of a handgun barrel. The R89T is a proven law enforcement load, and with this minimal increase, I would expect it to perform in a similar manner out of the carbine. I have tested the Underwood Nozzler out of a 4-inch barrel, and it had excessive fragmentation. I would expect that to be replicated from a 16-inch barrel. The PDX-1 is a bonded bullet, and I would probably be okay using this one for self-defense and also certainly for woods protection. I've had jacket separation issues with the 147 Winchester and would expect that to occur also out of a longer barrel. The Gold Dot is a solid performer from a handgun, and I would be comfortable using this in a home defense scenario. However, I would expect significant expansion. The Silver Tip gives us a nice increase, but again, I'm going to be concerned about fragmentation at this velocity. The Q4429 is the mil-spec offering from Winchester. This velocity is probably beyond the performance envelope, so it would need testing before I would use it for defensive purposes. A 147 that I have not mentioned is the XTP. It wins the velocity increase in this sampling. Even at 1141 FPS, it's well within the performance envelope, which I believe is 1200. And then we have a handful that actually went backwards in velocity. All have a powder burn engineered to maximize velocity from a handgun barrel. Of these, the 147 HST is probably the biggest disappointment for most of you because it's a top choice for handgun self-defense. In closing, a few observations. Focusing on 115 and 124 grain FMJ, the average velocity increase on both sample groups was 12%. From the carbine, foot-pounds of muzzle energy on 115 grain FMJ averaged 450, and foot-pounds on 124 grain FMJ averaged 447. Comparing JHPs and all bullet weights, velocities on standard pressure increased by 9%, and plus P also increased by 9%. I had always wondered if imported FMJs and all bullet weights, compared to domestic products, would be faster out of the carbine. Believe it or not, they both came in with an average increase of 12%. But for consistency shot to shot, I'd give an edge to the imported ammo. I hope you found this modest compilation of data points and visuals beneficial as you evaluate ammo selections for your 9mm carbine. Thanks for watching.